Call the meeting to order, please. We'll start with the flag salute and then remain standing for a moment of silence to honor our past and present members of the Lockport Township Fire Protection District and those people serving in the U.S. military. And Henry, would you lead us in a pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I thank you. Good evening. And a roll call, please.
Trustee Siegel?
Here.
Trustee Meter?
Here.
Trustee Pell?
Here.
Trustee Pelia?
Here.
Trustee McCluskey?
Here.
The next item on the agenda is the matters of the public. And would we want to do the public hearing on the ordinance first, Carl, or?
No, I'd have public comment if there is any, in general, and then we can open the public hearing on the budget.
All right, I would ask then if anybody would like to address the board. Seeing and hearing no one, we'll move on to the hearing of the 2014-2015 budget and appropriation ordinance. Would anybody have any comments? Go ahead, Carl.
I would start just asking the minutes reflect that for 30 days before tonight, a tentative budget has been on file available for the public, should anybody wish to review it, and that at least 30 days ago, notice of tonight's hearing was published in the local newspaper. Both are requirements of the statute. This is the opportunity for the public to ask any questions regarding the budget. If there are no questions, then you could just close the public hearing.
Are there any questions? Then I will close the hearing at whatever time it is, I can't see, it's 7:04. Okay, the next item is E, approval of the minutes. I would entertain a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes dated January 25th, 2014.
I'll make a motion to approve the June 25th minutes of 2014.
Second.
Any comments or questions? Hearing none, a roll call, please.
Trustee McCluskey?
Yes.
Trustee Meter?
Yes.
Trustee Pell?
Yes.
Trustee Pelia?
Yes.
Trustee Siegel?
Yes.
The next item is the approval of the closed session minutes dated June 25th, 2014. I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, a roll call, please.
Trustee Pelia?
Yes.
Trustee McCluskey?
Yes.
Trustee Pell?
Yeah.
Trustee Siegel?
Yes.
Trustee Meter?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Moving on, the treasurer's report, Bob.
Okay, just quickly, on the first page shows at the end of June, the district had in local banks roughly 16 million. Second page shows where that 16 million is spread out in the 9 funds within the district. And the third page shows 2 months into the fiscal year, where we are compared to last year, 2 months into the fiscal year. And just at top there, the top section, the revenue, we're around 200,000 more than we were last year at this point. And at the bottom, you can see the expenditures are down roughly 370,000, but that's mainly due, as you can see in that miscellaneous column, That's the money we turn over to the pension, and just the timing of it. We wrote a check at the beginning of July this year instead of end of June, so it's just timing, turning the money over to the pension. That's why expenditures are down so much more compared to last year. And I will entertain any questions if you have them.
Any questions of Bob? I'll entertain a motion to approve the treasurer's report as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Siegel,
Yes.
Trustee Pelia.
Yes.
Trustee McCluskey,
Yes.
Trustee Meter,
Yes.
Trustee Pell.
Yes. The next item is the bills. I'll entertain a motion to approve the bills as presented in the amount of $368,581.55.
So moved. Second.
Any questions?
On the second page, the $19,325, brief explanation again of what that is for.
I'm sorry, Chris.
The $19,325,
That was the installation of a air exhaust system at station number 5. It was approved like 4 months ago by the trustees.
and that is the exact amount that we were approved. I didn't know whether there was any,
But there were no extras on the job, so I can send, I would have to go back and check 4 months ago.
the $11,150 on the same page. That's for,
The department changed the badge layout, and the foreign fire board paid 100% of that cost. So it was billed through the department, but a check from the foreign fire board came back to the district for that entire amount.
I was hoping as much, but it didn't say that, so I wanted to, that's all I had.
Anything else? Okay, a roll call, please.
Trustee McCluskey,
Yes.
Trustee Meter,
Yes.
Trustee Siegel,
Yes.
Trustee Pell,
Yes.
Trustee Pelia.
Yes.
Okay, the next item is the approval of the disbursements in the amount of $2,560,243.68. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Bob, you want to, I call Bob on this.
Just, I want to point out that $2 million of that is money that we transferred from Harris Bank to PNC, and we just write a check to ourselves and deposit it there.
Are you talking about the amount shown on page 3?
Yeah, page 3, I think it is, where it shows 500, 500, and $1 million, and it's just separate because it's out of 3 different funds. Fund 1, 3, and 7, so that it was $2 million that we collect. That's where it's deposited from the county treasurer when we get the tax distribution, and then our operating checking accounts at PNC Bank. And we have a payroll and stuff out of Harris, so we just sent.
We had 500 and something on a pension fund too.
Yes, the 532.
First time I ever remember in almost 4 years that we ever had $2.5 million of disbursements. Am I wrong and just don't remember that this is, I mean, I can see a few $100,000, but I've never seen $2.5 million in disbursements before. Are we showing this differently than we have in the past? I mean, I know the money goes into the funds, and then we has to come out of the funds to go into checking so we can spend the money for the fund, but.
The reason for it is because I was doing Star's job, and I didn't realize that in the past, they don't usually include it in the disbursement.
It truly isn't a
It's just
disbursement
transfer.
because it's.
I would agree, and that's why it
That's
sticks out like a sore thumb,
Yeah.
that instead of 200,000 or 300,000 that we might have,
Yeah.
which is very high, usually it's $10,000.
Yeah.
But $2.5 million, that's kind of a red flag, and
So,
But that's the reason, it usually doesn't show up.
okay, it's a pass-through,
Yeah.
so that's good.
I've seen that, I call it.
Move
Any
for
other-
approval of the disbursements.
A second?
So, second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Malakowski?
Yes.
Trustee Siegel?
Yes.
Trustee Meter?
Yes.
Trustee Pell?
Yes.
And Trustee Pelia?
Yes. All right, thank you. The next item is the attorney's report. Gentlemen?
A couple of things that we've reported on legislatively last month have now been signed by the governor. One is the change for the commission to be aware of in the scoring for the new hire examination process. They'll have to set the passage score now. And
They?
meaning your commissioners. It went from the state having it spelled out in the statute in one or two different ways now to back to the local commissions to determine what the written exam cutoff point is, but it has to be based upon some normed and validated written exam. So we think the recommended process would be to sit down with the vendor and ask them what is the cutoff point below which the individuals do not have the best or the necessary mental capacity to be a firefighter. That's what the test is supposed to show. And we have to put that back on the vendor, because as a commissioner, I don't know how you would determine that on your own. So it's, you tell us, vendor, what's the cutoff point, and then we'll give the notice to everybody that's taking the test. And you gotta get above either a 40, a 50, a 70, or whatever it is, based on that written exam.
Do we currently have a level?
Well, the state had said it was first the average plus 10% of those who took the test on any one time, and then they switched to the median point. And that's an arbitrary number. In the past, a lot of commissions used 70%, which is still an arbitrary number, because a lot of people that were below 70% could certainly be firefighters. But that's what the Department of Justice, the Federal Department of Justice came in and looked at the state statute and felt that it was discriminatory and made the state change it. The other thing come January, I believe, is the bidding, competitive bidding for materials, supplies, and work will be required, with several exceptions. We don't know for sure what that means. Is a car a material, a supply, or work? I'm thinking not. I don't know if it's intended to be. So we're gonna try to get the transcripts from the debates on the floor in the House and Senate to see if anybody mentioned what all this was supposed to cover.
Like fire trucks?
Yeah.
January 1st.
Yeah,
Is any above 20,000 or?
yeah, it's above 20,000. But, you know, we've got that big question is, I think last month that we approved purchase of a vehicle here. Would that be something that you have to engage in competitive bidding? No. Now, if you take it off the state bid list, it's already been done. So that's not really a problem. But when you get into ambulances and your apparatus, what of that is a supply and what is something that doesn't necessarily have to be bid? So we're gonna try to get some answers to that, but I think it's gonna just end up being a legal opinion, and it could be challenged, and we'll have to wait and see what courts have to say in the years to come on this.
We're not the first entities to have to go out to bid. I think we're the last ones that didn't have to, perhaps. And is not this addressed in other statutes that applies to everybody else except for fire districts?
The statutes are worded slightly different. That's the problem. If they had just taken what was in either the municipal code, the park district school code, and, you know, been consistent throughout, then it'd be much easier to say, well, yeah, that's what it means. I think there's some theory out there that the intent was just to cover public works, meaning construction projects. I don't think that's true, but somebody thought that was the case going in, and then it got expanded and not expanded very carefully with the language used. Because they've got different language and different statutes. So we're looking at that, and if we can get that's real close to what they've got in the Fire District Act now, then we'll look for cases under that statute, and then we'll be able to tell clients, okay, this is included or not included.
So the lack of clarity is only as it relates to, what's a supply or not versus the rest of it, like you say, buildings and other vehicles, cars and trucks and so forth, not fire trucks, but where they have apparatus that don't know where they fall. It's pretty clear there that we're the same as everybody else, right? That anything over 20,000 is.
No, it's not. That's the problem. It's not as clear as it is in some of the other
So it doesn't. The lack of clarity does not refer just to what is a supply versus what is not a supply. It has to do with what has to be bid and what doesn't have to be bid.
Well, what has to be bid under this statute is supplies, materials, and work in excess of $20,000. What's a supply and what's a material? Work, the services, I understand that part, the labor. So that's, lawyers love the fact when the General Assembly puts things together in a bad way that we have gray area to fight over. But that's not
It's written by lawyers after all. So.
Yeah, but it's not good practice, but they do it so often.
With the previous issue that Gordy was talking about, I'm trying to think what you were just, is it, who does the onus fall on to make a decision? Us to direct the commissioners, or is it the commissioners have to make a determination as to what number it's going to be? Is it fall on them, or does it fall on us to direct them to what we want it to be?
No, it's up to the commission to do that. And just letting you guys know that that's got to be done now differently than it has been in the past.
Okay.
Are you still gonna be able to have you set a number, if you got 150 applicants and 75 fall above this number, you don't have to interview the other 75 like we've done in the past?
There's still authority, regardless of what the written exam scores are. Maybe your passage point, you end up with 150 people that passed it. Right. And the question is, does the commission want to interview all 150? Do they want to say, oh, in the next 2 years, we don't expect to have to meet more than 25 to 50 people on that list, so we're only going to interview 25 to 50? The commission has the authority to do that. And they can say, okay, we're going to interview the top 50 people, but the next 100 are still good. If we, in a year, still need some more, we'll interview the next 25, say. They have that authority now. Or they can forego interviews until the time of hire now and do an in-depth interview and determine which of the top 5 people they like best for the position. So there's more discretion in the commission than there used to be.
Thank you.
Anything else, Dave?
Mediation, we're still waiting for a date. I know we've been saying that month after month, and have not yet been able to find a date that works for everyone on the contract mediation. I believe we're still waiting for a decision on the Manning arbitration staffing.
About 3 or 4 months overdue.
So there's nothing to update on any of the labor stuff. Still waiting. I think that's it.
Yeah. I'm reluctant to call or write the arbitrator to demand a decision, because you might get a decision you don't want if that happens. So I was trying to decide if I should pretend to be from the union's law firm and demand it and see what happens. But so far, I've resisted that temptation.
Carl, I have one more question. On the proposed purchase of the new fire trucks, if you need lights and radio and computer, when you approve the purchase of the truck, are you automatically including the related appurtenances without knowing their cost?
Usually no. you know, frequently you get the radios, the lighting, the lettering, and all that is done after, although sometimes part of it's included with the price of the vehicle, some isn't, so it depends on how we write the specs.
Typically, we save money by doing the radio work ourselves, the warning lights, and the lettering, we get that through the manufacturer. So when it goes in, then we do our equipment mounting, installing the radios and computers. And that's
But
really
it's not part of the purchase price of the vehicle.
correct.
And is hose that goes on an engine, if you were gonna buy a new hose with it, is that a supply or a material? I'd say yes. But could you write your specs that you need so many feet of the 5-inch hose and 2.5 and whatever, different sizes and lengths that you have? Could you write your specs that way and say, see, I'm just buying a fire truck? I think that's a little questionable, and so you're probably gonna need to divide it out, do the hose separately.
Yeah, some departments, when they order a truck, they order, give me all the tools and hose too, and they include it all in one big price. We've never done it that way because we found it cheaper to piece it up.
So this new ambiguous statement by the state, does that apply to the truck itself, or it does not? So the truck does not have to be bid out?
I'm thinking the truck is not a supplier of material. Some statutes say, include the word equipment. And I think there, you know, if you look at a public works department, what is the equipment? You got a lot of, you know, backhoes and different loaders. You've got all sorts of things that probably fit within the term equipment. And I think maybe a fire apparatus could also fit within that word easier than a supplier of material. But absent equipment or vehicles in the code, I'm thinking it would not require you to bid the fire engine, trucks, and rescue vehicles.
Do you think that it's written to be exclusive or inclusive? Is it everything including these, or is it only these?
It's written to say only these. What the intent might have been might be broader, so that's why we're ordering the transcripts to look to see if the sponsor on the floor said this is going to require fire districts to bid everything, and even if the language doesn't say that, if you go into court and you've got the sponsor of the bill saying this is what we intend by it, maybe didn't draft it that way, you're in a lot worse shape if you're on the other side of that argument than if it's, you know, these are the things that we want them to bid. Now, what's good policy? You as a district, you as a board of trustees set the policy with respect to, do we want to be more expansive than just the minimums required by the state and say we want everything over $10,000 to get competitive bids? You know, what's your purchasing policy? Who has the authority? At what point do we have to have 3 quotes and the board approve it? What's the chief's authority? You guys set those parameters within your own policies. And we've had a lot of, you know, quotes and bids done without being required to do so in the fire districts, so including here. So you still have authority to say we want to do more than what's written in that state statute. We'll define it and require our employees to do what we want here. That's you 5 get to make those decisions.
Okay, but right now, even though we go to bid, does this law require you to accept the low bid, or does it just require you to go to bid and then you pick whichever one you want?
Requires you to go to bid and accept the lowest responsible bidder, but you can determine whether they are the lowest responsible bidder based upon the specifications, what's their history in performing similar services or contracts, what's, you know, other reputation issues as far as quality and timeliness of the product being delivered. So you still have discretion to say you might be lowest, but you're not the lowest responsible bidder.
This takes effect January 1/15, so if we ordered some piece of apparatus before January 1st, this is not covered. I mean, it takes effect January 1st.
Right.
Okay, anything else? Carl? Dave?
That's all I have.
Gentlemen? Okay, we'll move on. Thank you. Dave, your report, please.
Good evening, I hope you're enjoying this wonderful July weather.
Thank you.
I do want to run down a couple items on my report because I think they're significant that we should talk about them. Number one talks about recognition letters. There was quite a few in this month's packet, so I just want to compliment all of our employees that are the cause that we're getting these good letters. Number two, on June 30th, I think most people know that we had some storms sweep through. Very ironic that we had not one but two separate waves come through, each one creating their own havoc. Our crews did a real good job responding to multiple situations. And in fact, I talked to one of the guys who was out. He said, I could barely see the fire truck as I was coming out of a house. Once I got in it, we couldn't see past our front bumper. I was thinking about running back in the house and going in the basement. So hats off to the guys who were working on that day. Just to comment, we did not have any fireworks-related injuries, and our crews did support two public events with standbys for fireworks. Number four, we've had a couple of fire prevention codes going on lately. I'm sure if you see the local paper, you can see that Cresto rescinded their fire sprinkler ordinance on residential structures. We've also had some issues going on with the city of Lockport. For the first time since I can remember, we've had some people calling trustees asking for, I guess they're trying to fill them in on the situation. I just want to make sure the trustees remember, if you guys ever get calls like this, send them to me. That's what I'm here for. As it turns out, we're getting them resolved, but fire prevention issues normally create concern from the people who own the buildings. It's not new. Number five, the Chevron property, just an update. And to bring everybody up to speed, I refer to it as a Chevron property, but it's the old Texaco refinery. They are nearing the end of their environmental cleanup phase. That's been over 10 years in the making. So next year they plan on sealing the hazardous waste fill landfill on the north side of the property. They've had quite a bit of interest from national developers on redeveloping that property. That's the good news. The bad news, I'm sorry, additionally with that, the good news is there's two rail lines and water access. Very few industrial parks nationwide have that ability. The bad news is it's a very small parcel. It's only the parcel between the two railroad tracks. So they're having some issues with that, but they're really excited because they have some big name developers that are looking at it. Nothing in concrete, but hopefully for the future, something good will be coming down there.
Approximately how many acres is that, you know? You're talking about
I wanna
3
say-
acres,
I wanna
you're talking
say-
about 10 acres, 40 acres?
I want to say 300 acres.
Yeah, so it's about
I want to say
Okay.
300 acres. Yeah.
That's still a pretty good sized parcel.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I thought you were talking maybe, you know,
You know, the thing is, the new industrial parks, as you're aware from the division, they come in and they build 1 million square foot buildings, so they're looking for big property.
Are they still gonna do that oil transfer there?
As a matter of fact, they're having problems with that company. And they said that they were like within 30 days of either, hey, you're gonna go, or you're gonna go away.
problems in getting them to commit, not problems in that you don't want to deal with them.
Correct. It's communication issues where the Chevron people are dealing with them, and the contracts are on the table, they've been approved by the city, and for whatever reason, this company isn't responding.
Okay, just want to make sure that anybody that watches this doesn't think that they're having trouble with the company that some people don't want there to begin with, to meaning that they're having environmental problems or something that it's not. It's just getting the job done.
Contractual issue. Westcom, they had their ribbon cutting on July 11th for the new building, and on July 15th, they did move. Any big issues, John, during the move?
No, the move went pretty good, no major issues. They did have some outages prior to the move with the old facility. But now we're in a new place, we should be in great shape, so.
I ran something different. I went to the county's website and I ran the top 50 taxpayers in our district. And I thought that was appropriate since we were approving the budget ordinance tonight. And in your packet, I actually printed out the tax bills for the top 20. And notice the top 10, 9 of the top 10 are all along Taylor Road. So I thought it was relevant because also in tonight's packet, you'll be paying a payment to Romeoville for the intergovernmental agreement that covers that area. And if anybody has any doubts of whether that was a good move or not, I think this kind of supports the fact that the boards serving at the time were doing the right thing. And then number 9 is just to let you know that we're working with the U.S. Census Bureau to try to get exactly how many houses we have for the weather radio project. We'll keep you informed. We're moving forward on that. Other than that, if you don't have any questions, that's my report.
Any questions of the chief?
Yeah, are we gonna surplus any ambulances?
Yes, sir. We've got one out there, one sitting outside that's going to go to surplus. The new ones went in service a couple weeks ago. So before we did anything, we want to make sure, like any new car, there's always bugs.
Right.
Yeah. So that one will be going out to surplus. We're not expecting to get very much for it. We talked to the dealer. He said if you get it, if you get $5,000 to $8,000, you'll be happy.
Do you put it on the website for some of these southern fire departments? You put it on the fire marshal's website or anything?
That'll be up to the board when we bring it before you for surplusing. The last vehicle that we surplused, we did that. We went to the fire marshal's website, and that's how it sold.
You mentioned that these are the top 50 taxpayers in the district.
Yes,
I didn't go through them all. How many of them are not in a, most of that, it sounds like if they're along Taylor, are technically in the city of, in an incorporated area. Are there any that fit into that category that are not in an incorporated area?
The two big ones that stick out in my mind, and I can't remember all 50, but the two big ones, I think like number 2 on the list is used to be ComEd, Midwest Generation, and I don't know what they're called this week, but the coal-fired generator station, and also the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District both of those are unincorporated.
That they're not taxpayers?
Metropolitan Water Reclamation is. They are only tax-free in Cook County. Any property they have outside of Cook County, they pay taxes on. There was some statute or some legal maneuvering a couple years ago that went through where they tried to remove themselves off the tax rolls. It was challenged and they lost. So they pay taxes. And if you look, they pay quite a bit of taxes.
I was surprised to see that.
Yeah. Okay, anything else?
Oh, are the, I haven't been on the website in quite a while. Are these letters from taxpayers or constituents, are they typically scanned on the website?
Not normally. Because they come from individuals, we haven't put them on there.
Seems to me it's good PR to tell people that people are happy with their service. You may want to, if they're addressed to you, you would think that they're automatically public record. But I would think that we don't want to be selective and say, oh, we'll put this one out because it's really good or whatever. But I think that they should be on the website. And
Could you leave their name off of it?
We'll explore trying to figure out and get them on there.
a lot of times the letter kind of tells everybody who they are by the incident. So all the pertinent people are going to know who they are anyway. But if they're writing a letter to you in your capacity, or to John or whatever, it becomes a public record. If somebody wants to FOIA it, I guess they could. I mean, not looking to put anybody on the spot, but if we're proud of it, we might as well toot our horn if we're doing something right, like we are all the time. Then it's good for people to know that.
Sure. We'll take your direction and explore it.
John, your report, please.
Standards presented, I want to go over 2 events that we participated in on July 12th. One was at the Hasser Park here. They had an inter-college soccer game for high school kids, and they pretty much had scouts from all over the United States attend this. We had probably 1,500 to 2,000 people they estimated were in the field here. On that day, I don't know if you know, that Saturday, we had quite a few bad storms come through, so our guys contacted them early in the morning And we offered our building for shelter if they needed it. Well, I did get a call from Ed Rosetta later in the day, and probably about 150 people did take us up on it when the storms came through, the shelter in the building here. So it was a nice gesture on our behalf for to get them out of the weather. The second thing we participated in, we took Engine 3 out of service for a period of time to attend the Wounded Warriors Run at Cottonwood Farms. I think it benefited wounded vets. And one other big event we have coming up next month is the Boy Scout Air Fest at Lewis. So we're preparing our incident action plan for that, but that's going to be about 1,500 to 2,000 Boy Scouts camping out at the
And where are they staying, John?
in the fields over at the college over here.
Oh,
They're
okay.
setting up tents, so Romeyville and us, we're coming to a joint plan to man it with medics around the clock. So
Wow.
you've got 2,000 Boy Scouts running around, so we want to make sure
And
if something happens, we're prepared for it.
tell us about what's with the airplane rides? Do they,
But what they're gonna do, I think it's, I'm not sure if it's Saturday or Sunday, they're gonna give the Boy Scouts rides in the airplanes. So one thing we're gonna do there, we're gonna man one guy in each one of our airport rescue trucks, just as precaution in case something happens, but, you know, there will be a lot of flights going out of Lewis with the Boy Scouts, just,
yeah.
they have a lot of pilots that are volunteering their time, and, but it's gonna be busy over there that weekend,
Okay.
so. That's all I have.
Any questions of John, gentlemen? Okay, thank you. The next item is unfinished business, and I don't think we're ready to approve the policy manual yet.
Probably not.
And can we just kind of like table that, or?
You can. I would also invite at this time any questions as we continue to fine tune it.
Okay.
Whether you want to discuss now or whether anyone has questions for us later or between meetings, feel free to, discuss with us these changes.
Dave, you had an item.
Yeah, one of the areas I looked at, there's nothing in that policy regarding how these meetings are conducted in a readable form. That is, you need a Philadelphia lawyer and yourself to do it. When those kids walk in the classroom, I want to give them a piece of paper, they can sit there, boom, 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 read right down.
Okay. So we're looking at Chapter 2. There are some rules on conducting meetings, voting, minutes, how motions are to be done. We'll take a look at that, and maybe you and I can even go over some suggestions. I know you gave me some
Somewhere, the
examples.
one page where,
Yeah.
like, any one of us that died today, not half wishing it, if someone walks in who's a trustee, you give that to him, he's lost. He's got to rely on the attorneys to follow.
That's why we do it that way. Okay, I see what you want. So we could, I suppose we could do sort of a, like you said, sort of a one-page.
One page,
Here are some basics of
yeah.
a board meeting.
Robert's Rules of Order, da-da-da.
Does not apply. It would be my recommendation that you not adopt Robert's Rules of Order.
It's too complicated, right? Yeah, something where we can follow, we can read.
So there's that.
Like a tune-up on the way we're doing it now?
I think the way you guys do it now is
I mean,
Pretty
is there
good.
something,
I don't think so.
is there something that we're not doing right, that we haven't been doing?
No,
I
if you're
mean,
just
if we
looking
got a
for
tune-up on it?
if you're just
Dave,
looking
is
for
that what
a,
you're saying?
Something where you can hand something to someone. Like right now, we know all about what we're doing. If some new trustee walked in that door, he'd be lost. He'd have to sit here a year or two to figure out what's going on.
but are you talking about just conducting the meetings, or are you talking about?
Conducting meetings.
Annual requirements of the trustees?
Well, conducting meetings, how the
Okay.
meeting's done.
All right.
Yeah, and I've got a note to do that.
Motions, how you do actions and then prove something, going in and out of closed session.
Yeah, like a lot of things we do, we talk about motions, we sit here and scribble numbers down. Maybe that motion should be done when we walk in, we vote on it. We're not plugging numbers in, dates, names, times, and that's where the error comes in.
And I had discussed with trustee Pelliot too, is like, we say if we had a speaker come from outside wanting to speak, do we have anything with a time limit? How long they're up there for? I don't think we have anything.
Public comment? You
Yeah,
don't
public
have-
comment,
we have-
signature.
We do, and you can set a reasonable limit. If it isn't in there, we'll certainly add it. The other thing we talked about was having a sign-in sheet. I think that's a good idea. I think we should add that, if the board would like that, for public comments.
And their expectation, not just sign in. Now, you can't come here, we don't debate with you want to debate here, you can elect it to the board, then you can debate.
Yeah.
Because there's a city on the other side of the river that I'm very familiar with, that went on hell for 4 years, because there was no rules.
Well, and that's up to the board to control or not control. I've always said, it is an opportunity for the public to make comments and ask questions, and it's not a public debate period. You know, the board should say, thank you for your comment, and we'll get back to you. And, you know, you set rules, and if there's a complaint that somebody has, then they ought to be, you know, referred to the proper people to handle that complaint and the response coming back. But it is an opportunity for the public to come in, and it has to be part of every meeting you do.
And we do have that. But I think it'd be
It's in-
appropriate to pull this out and perhaps have it as a separate thing that you all could
Sidebars,
have. I think it's good to have it in here, but we've got a section on addressing the board. We ask that speakers limit their participation to 3 minutes. We note that it's not an opportunity to have a debate with the board. And so we do cover that, but I think we could make it more accessible for trustees.
What some places will do on the public comment thing is they have the form that people fill out. So they have, just for your minutes, you have, you know, you got the name down, because you get up and maybe they don't catch what the name is, or they don't say what their name is, and this way you've got it, and the topic that they want to speak on, but then you also have kind of the rules of your public participation on that form. So, you know, you just have it here, where they can pick up an agenda, and they can pick up a public comment form. If they want to turn it in and speak, they can do so. But that then spells out for the individuals that might attend your meeting sporadically or for the first time ever, to know what their rules are. That might be something we could just give you as well as that form.
Yeah, we have that in other places. Aside from the meeting minute, or the meeting rules, I think it's important the board understand that most of the changes are spurred by changes in the law. We did have some changes to personnel policies as well. A lot of those were based on the law. We've gone back and forth a few times in revising these policies. It may be good to start to get narrowed down to a cleaner version. If the board wants to start to review what it may look like without all the mess on it, I think that may help to move things towards getting this approved. So there's that. While I'm thinking of it, the purchasing policy that you have, which we talked about a little bit before, with the new law, will need to be changed. But I would suggest holding off on changing that until we need to, and until we have a better understanding. I think our firm will be developing a policy that we can recommend that you adopt. But know that that'll have to change. And this larger overhaul is something you would do maybe once every 3 years at the most. As laws change, we would like to keep you updated as things come. So the purchasing policy will be an example of that. Don't be surprised when we come to you in 4 months and say we need to update this purchasing policy. You may ask, hey, didn't we just overhaul the trustee policy with all new rules for the new laws? Well, this would be an example of when the laws change. We're going to try to keep you up to date going.
So you can amend it as time goes on?
You can. You can amend it anytime you want, and I wanted to point this out as an example of something that will come up in the next few months that we're going to try to do as we go on. When laws change that affect your policies, we'd like to jump on them and get your policies up to date as we go.
I have a couple. Chief, you provided this document?
I was going to cover that a little bit later on the agenda.
Okay, I'll let that go. And the attorneys have provided this as a second item to cover what we were provided previously.
Right, there were some additional changes or some tweaks that went into that. I would point out a couple of them to you. The BC job description, we had taken out some things that were meant to be left in, so you'll see that some of the benefit package information in the battalion chief job description is now still in the policy, as it always has been. And then the discussion of insurance for the civilian employees and the employee contribution versus district contribution is now accurately reflected in that updated book. But I think the rest of it's the same. We wanted to make sure you had the updated copy. And like I said, there's going to be a lot of markups in that still. I know we have some work to do in Chapter 2, which is the meeting policies. But I'd like to try to get you a cleaner copy, get some of the page numbers cleaned up, and see what questions come after that.
Okay. Do we have a timeline on this? No?
I would like to see by next meeting.
Next meeting?
that you
Okay.
have, you'll have a clean version. I would say, what I'd like to do is go ahead and accept the changes in the document that you've seen so far.
At next meeting? Or
On my computer file,
Okay.
I will get a clean version and then make additional changes stemming from this discussion. So you'll have that book you have now that shows all the changes that I've proposed so far.
Okay.
And then I think we give you a clean copy as of tonight, and I'll make some additional changes based on the discussion we've had, so you can see what new changes are stemming from this conversation.
And for ease of reference, we should give you a complete clean set. And then any additional changes, we'll just give you the pages that have changes
Very good.
on them. So that it's a smaller document and they will be tracked from today's version, okay?
Yes.
So that you know what you've got, we've got all those accepted, and anything that shows changes would be based on after tonight's change. So, but keep this document in case you have.
So does that mean that you're saying that we're going to, maybe a better term, but we're going to adopt this as this is what it currently is, and so going forward, there will be changes to this that what is accepted? Because we don't even know that this is what we want yet.
No.
So if we're saying that we're making changes to this, we don't even know what changes here are versus our current
I'm
manual.
talking the word processing system, go in and hit accept all changes in the document. That's not saying you've adopted it, it's just so that you now, in reviewing the next thing that we sent you.
It's
we'll
compared to
look-
this.
Yeah, it's compared to what you have there.
But not as the adopted version.
Yeah, it's not adopted.
No, not until the board approves it.
Okay, when you say refer back to it, it sounds like it could be construed as being that we're adopting that until we make more changes.
Do we need a motion to table this issue then?
No.
No.
We just put it back on the agenda.
Gordy?
I have one last thing. Within the chief's report, there's the fire district, there's a sick leave tabulation. At the bottom of that, is there a dollar that's associated with it? In other words, this is an encumbrance against the general fund or something. We would owe that amount of money to those people if that were to occur. How does it show in our accounting system that?
During our audit, the auditor requests how many sick days everyone has, how many vacation days everyone has, anything that they are owed, that goes through the audit process, and then
It shows up in our annual report as a liability.
Okay, but within the
Compensated
budget,
absences,
It's also in the budget.
yeah.
There's dollars set aside, I think it's OPEB or OEPB?
OPEB.
OPEB.
Well, that we use to pay for retirees' health insurance.
It's not the sick leave buyback also?
could there be an
Well, it could be.
01 or 02, put a subcode? Because we owe this money, or somehow this is an account.
It's as a liability in our system, in our balance sheet, but we don't print our balance sheet.
Okay.
You know, you see the revenue and expenditure, but it's a liability.
That's all I have.
All right, sir.
Two comments. If you don't get the Herald News, you may not know, but a subject kind of along the lines of what Dave was talking about, there was question as to whether or not elected officials need to explain their votes, whether they're a yes or a no, if they're a no, or if they're an abstention. And you know, different people on the board say no. When I'm an elected official, I don't have to answer those questions. I think it's just the opposite. When you're elected official, you have a duty to explain more. But I don't, that's not exactly what Dave was talking about, but it's, the city of Plainfield is going through this right now because of, it was just for a liquor license. And the public is saying that, well, you should explain why you abstained or why you voted no. And I'm not saying that we should do that, but so that it's not just here that people are talking about what the process might be. And the other is, do other districts have in their policy manuals more than what we have, that we can just, rather than reinventing the wheel, that we can, that you represent, you can look at and say, hey, this is what they're doing, we suggest you make these changes, and
That's sort of the bet that we use. What you have with all those changes is pretty comprehensive, and it's as up to date as you're going to find, I believe.
okay, so, but I mean, on this, on the issue that Dave rose as to the, you know, the responsibilities and the procedures for the meetings, that we don't currently have, and it's not in here, is that something that other districts, that singular issue, that we can look at and?
I know we can find you participation policy, one-page document that you didn't currently have, along with the sign-in page. But the meeting rules that you have are pretty standard. We're going to probably be doing something specified for your purposes. As far as I'm aware, we don't have exactly what you're asking for, but we'll create it.
Something that I think I would like to see is when some of those procedures are statutorial, that it's not a decision that we make, that we can decide we do or don't want to do. If you were to asterisk them or something so that we know these are statutory requirements, these are procedures that have to be followed by whatever statute, and then the ones that we enact that are subject to our approval, separate those so that we know that there might be, I assume that they like to write statutes so that those are addressed, so that we know that those are not, you know, something you can give or take on.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a good idea to have that denoted as to.
I agree. And what we typically will do is put the statutory citation after that legal requirement, but if you'd like it denoted otherwise.
Well, if we say that the president does this, and it's a statutory requirement that the president does this, and only the president does this, and that's part of the procedure, we should just asterisk that this is statutory. It's not something that we decided that this board wants to have. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. And we don't have to have a long explanation at the bottom, just that if it's a statutory requirement, asterisk, so that we know that that's where it came from.
That might make a very cumbersome looking document, but then we think about it.
Well, I'm not saying that you have to include everything, but I'm saying that if we're gonna have something in our procedure that explains things more, as Dave is requesting, that if there are things that we're including because they're statutory, we should know they're statutory and not just something that we're looking to enact new rules or take those away.
And I'm just trying to think how to do that, so we'll think about that. With respect to the vote aspects, there's no real authority to abstain or say, I'm gonna pass on this one by elected officials. When the vote is called, you're supposed to say yes or no, unless you have a conflict of interest. And in that case, you must disclose a conflict of interest and state, I'm abstaining because of that, before the vote is taken. Some believe you shouldn't participate in the debate on the issue even. And if you are, seeking to provide some labor, material, supplies to the district, you've got a conflict. But you can do so up to a certain dollar amount under the statute. But the requirement is, it depends on which statute you have. Some, it's had to have been competitive bid. Others, it's a certain dollar amount that you can go up to, $2,000 in a year. And you must abstain. So if there's an abstention, generally you should be saying why you're abstaining. Some, in most cases, you are only doing it because you are required to do it under the law. So, but a lot of places, people abstain just to avoid an appearance of impropriety, then you can say that. But if it's a 2-2 vote, come back to the individual that abstains and we need to vote.
Our president did a lot of that when he was in the Senate, and passed on a lot of things he didn't vote on, and, they don't have to explain why they passed, but it helps people figure out that they don't know, that we don't know where somebody stands on something. And that's not what happened in Plainfield, but, we have two different issues. One is, when do you have to abstain, and is that being watched to make sure that people that should abstain are abstaining? And then if you do abstain, to what extent do you have to explain your reason for abstention? So, there's two different issues there, but both covered, it sounds like, by statute, however ambiguous it may be.
Correct.
So what constitutes a conflict of interest?
That's pretty well spelled out in the statute. But the problem is, there's 3 different statutes that govern what's a conflict of interest for trustees. So, that's just the way we do it.
Okay,
Sorry.
are we all done?
Yep.
All right, we'll move on then. Under new business, the first item is a motion for the destruction of the July 19th, 2012 verbatim record of the closed session minutes.
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee McCluskey?
Yes.
Trustee Meter?
Yes.
Trustee Powell?
Yes.
Trustee Pelia?
Yes.
Trustee Siegel?
No.
Okay, the item number 2, the semi-annual review, did you do that?
Yes, Mr. President. I did review the minutes, the closed session minutes on 7/7/14.
Okay.
And I will read them months and the days of these minutes that I read. I see no reason why we shouldn't release them. They are 12/18/13, 1/22/14, 1/28/14, 1/29/14, 2/11/14, 2/26/14, 3/26/14, 4/23/14, 5/28/14.
And your
We are
recommendation?
holding back 11/13/13 and 12/18/13.
12/18/13 was the first one you said to release.
12/18/13 and 11/13/13, personnel matters.
Okay, I thought the first one you stated should be released was 12.
Oh, you're right. Okay.
18, and so you said that for both categories?
Right, I should start with 1/22.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No problem. I just want to make sure which way it was.
And that is your motion.
I'm not making a motion, I'm just saying.
I'll entertain a motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we concur in the recommendation of the
Okay.
secretary for 2, 4, 6, 8 sets of minutes.
Closed session minutes.
Yes.
A second. If your numbers are correct.
As stated by the secretary.
So that's what I'm seconding.
And the motion? Okay, and do we have?
Second. So now we're waiting for a roll call, I believe.
Okay.
Trustee Meter?
Yes.
Trustee Siegel?
No.
McCluskey. Trustee
Yes.
McCluskey?
Yes.
Trustee Siegel?
Yes.
Trustee Pelia?
Yes.
Trustee Meter?
Yes.
Trustee Powell?
Yes. And that's all on that?
That's all.
Okay. Are you sure?
Yes. If there's anything different, I will, I'll let you know next time.
Okay, thank you very much. Chief, would you speak to this document?
I certainly will. Let me start by saying that one of the things that we're trying to do is take the lead of a lot of the input that's coming from the Board of Trustees. For different conferences, I can remember sitting next to Trustee Siegel in one of the conferences, and a question came up about some report that was being done. He looked at me, he goes, "Do we have this?" And I said, "No." And his question was, "Why don't we?" My response was, "We'll get right on it." And one of the things that came up, and there are other projects that we're working on, but it was like, we don't have an annual report for the district, so this is the first one. So it took us a while to get it. Obviously, this is July, and we're giving you the 2013 report. But I just want to kind of explain to you the process that we went through. We had to sit down and we looked at some of the other ones that are out there. And we had to come out with, okay, if I was John Q. Public, what kind of information would I want, and what kind of information would I understand? Because you can dazzle anybody with all kinds of statistics and numbers, and it really doesn't matter if you don't understand it. So what we try to do is put it in terms that someone who is not familiar with the fire district would understand. You can see there's graphs in there about what types of calls, where we go, by units, by hospital we transport. We try to break it down so that if someone picks this up and looks at it, they understand what the fire department's doing. We then took it one step farther and we said, okay, we do a lot more than just calls. And you'll notice as you go through there, each station's got some kind of a report. So we went to each captain that we have, and we said, "Captain, you know, we don't know what it's gonna look like, but we need you to give us something for the report." So there's 6 different station reports, and they just talk a little bit about what's going on in that building. Then we did the same thing with each specialty team. And we said, "Guys, give us some information about what you do so we can tell the general public." And then at the end, we threw some pictures into some significant calls throughout the year. So we're really proud of everybody that had input into this. And there was multiple people, I can't list everybody, but I do have to list one particular name, is Lieutenant Bill Blasky. He's the one that put it all together. And he's the one that came up with the format, and I think he did a really great job, so I want to make sure that he gets his recognition. But like I say, a lot of people, a lot of input, including finance. You'll see in there, there's a whole section on money too. So, this is the first. The first is never the best. Usually it changes every year. There'll be feedback from people. We'll put this up on our website. We have copies available if the general public would like a copy. But other than that, I present to the Board of Trustees the 2013 annual report for your review and comment.
Page 11, you're calling District 1. Is that Station 1?
Yes, it is.
Is this, when you say this is gonna be on the website, who puts it on the website? Who?
Yeah.
You do the thing directly?
We have a company that built our website. Works very cheap. And he showed Kathy how to post stuff, and whenever we have issues as far as posting stuff, we call him in. I think he works, what, $25 an hour? And he comes in and helps us if we have technical difficulties.
I would suggest on that same page 11, kind of in reference to what he just mentioned, that if it's district, it may be district/station, because most people are going to associate stations with an area, not a district. You know, we're a fire district, and most people, you know, have no idea what district they're in. They may know what the closest fire station is. So the terminology of district, you may want to get either changed or add, you know, station, so that people.
You think that people know where Station 6 is?
No, but if they drive by and see a great big 6 on it, they probably have a pretty good idea.
And they're gonna be carrying this?
No, but if we're telling people based on a geographic area, they don't know what, you know. I didn't realize we were broken up into 6 districts. I mean, I know we had 6 stations, and they have their call areas, but, you know, most people are going to refer to a fire station by its number rather than by a district. So
Yeah, and those are the kind of comments we're looking for, because I guess, remember, like I said at the beginning, this is the first, it will not be the best, and it'll have to be, revised as we go forward.
I'm impressed with the first run.
I think our guys did a good job. Really good. I think they did.
I am also, I've not read through it because I just got it. Before I came on the board and every year since, at some point you report on what our ranking number is, I think, that refers to, which affects people's insurance.
Yeah, it's on insurance.
Right. Is that in here?
I don't think it is. I don't think it is.
And I think that that's, again, it's a PR thing, that if we have a good rating because we do our job well, which may affect their insurance,
Yeah.
I think it's something that we should let them know.
Yeah, and the ranking that changes every 10 years, that's the insurance, you're talking about ISO, which is an insurance services organization. Right. Every 10 years, they're supposed to come through. It took 15 years for our last one. The ironic thing about that is, after January 1st of 2014, I think it was, they changed the rules. They actually made them a little more liberal, and so a lot of people that are getting ranked now are getting better scores because of it.
I just remember coming in before I was a trustee and knowing that you were expressing concern about which direction it was going and what we needed to do. We used that score somewhat to determine, whether or not or whether our level of service is what it should be and so forth. And so anytime that there's an outside entity that is rating us, particularly when they're rating us well, I think that's something that'd be good to have in the annual report to let people know.
Agreed.
But is the ISO a municipal function rather than a fire district function?
ISO was made up of 3 different areas: water supply, fire service equipment, and fire service people.
One other thing. The fire department rating, I think, is 40%.
Yes.
Water is 50%. And 10% is communications.
What are we, 3?
We're 4.
And we just went through it 2 years ago, we went through the ISO rating. But the department does good in all. We have different municipalities, some are better than others, the water supply and everything, which affects our total number.
Any other questions?
Good job.
I think you guys did a good job.
And credit goes to the guys. All we
Really a
did.
good job. I mean, if I just moved into the area and somebody handed me this and I would drink up my coffee, I'd feel pretty damn good about what I saw.
Page 5.
So I wouldn't, I'm not talking about.
There's 5 characters there. That's
I'm not talking about the pictures.
I feel real good about that.
Thank you,
Pass
Chief.
the word on.
We'll let the guys know, and we'll take your, and if you read it over the next week or two, if you, let us know.
When we purchased the ambulances,
Yes.
that's a major, how does that go into this? Is it got to wait a whole year?
We could, yeah, we just took delivery of them last month. You approved the purchase last fall, but we haven't took delivery of them last month.
It's a living document. It can be changed on the website, or is this, it's 13, so, obviously it's.
Yeah, what I'd like to do is just this is our first one, and then take your feedback and make corrections to the 14. And hopefully it's not gonna be 6 months before we're done. Now that we have because you had layout and everything, so there was more work for the first one.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
Thanks for coming.
Okay, item 4 is the Village of Romeoville, the intergovernmental agreement. I'll entertain a motion to make the first installment of 2014, Bob, is that what?
That's correct. And I passed out tonight, I didn't include in the packet the past 6
Right.
years, the payment and what it's based on. There's 2 shared areas.
Right, and so I'm entertaining a motion to pay Romeoville their payment, which is due at $588,891.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Siegel?
Yes.
Trustee Meter?
Yes.
Trustee Paul?
Yes.
Trustee Pelia?
Yes.
Trustee McCluskey?
Yes. Can I ask a question about Romeo before we move on?
Sure.
What happened with station, with the concrete, with the ingress and egress for participation in the curb or the improvements, the road improvements?
Talking about Station 3, they wanted us to participate in the
Yeah, 133.
repavement of the roadway. We declined it. I told the city manager, he was a little disappointed in our response, and that's where it ended.
Thank you.
All right, can't blame him for trying. Item 5 is the, I'll entertain a motion to approve the budget and appropriation ordinance number 2014-02 for the fiscal year beginning May 1st, 2014 and ending April 30th, 2015.
Make the motion. Second.
Any questions, comments? Hearing none, a roll call, please.
Trustee Pelia?
Yes.
Trustee McCluskey?
Yes.
Trustee Meter?
Yes.
Trustee Paul?
Yes.
And Trustee Siegel?
Yes.
The next item, we discussed last month. A very good discussion. Hopefully, everybody understands the ordinance. I'll entertain a motion to approve the ordinance number 2014-04, which provides additional compensation to the trustees for completion of approved training.
I'll make that motion.
And I'll second it.
Questions or comments?
Yeah, I
Yes.
just got one. The way I read it is, and it's a good thing for the future, we're not gonna be here forever. But the way I read it is, it's the term of the trustees. So what will happen is, in April, there's 3, okay, that would only affect those 3 if they take advanced training. They would have to come at the end of the other person's term.
Correct.
Okay.
Next question. Was the email we got about the sessions in November 4th, 5th, or 6th, is that the specialized training that we're talking about within this document?
Part of it, right?
The initial training is 12 hours. There's 3 4-hour sessions that you have to complete in order to qualify for the additional compensation. And then annually, you need 3 hours of continuing education. So I'm not sure if, but from the Illinois Association of Fire Protection Districts, they send out notices of the trustee training that's available, and they try to do it at least once a year to make each of the 3 components available once or twice each year.
Now, when we go up to Lombard, that would just be the annual.
Yeah,
Just be the 4-hour annual training.
When the act first came in, we did do the 12 hours worth of education, or at least components of them, at the Northern Alliance. But recently, we have not done that. We just use the conference as an ongoing, continuing ed where you get 3 hours easily.
But, so, I said yes, but you didn't say yes, that, to Gordy's question, that the meeting is coming up early in November that I went to 2 years ago. That'll have, as I understand, it'll have all 3 sessions available between Friday and Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon. So if you conducted all 3 of those, then you would qualify.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Okay, any other, were all the concerns met, Carl, and you got all that organized from last month's
We
meeting?
discussed last meeting the issue that trustee Meter brought
Because
up.
I still don't understand, repeat that back now.
It's in the, it's, they read it, it's in the paperwork
Yeah,
here.
all right,
It's at the beginning of the trustee's term.
okay, so,
So there would be 3 in April, and then when the other 2
okay,
positions come
all
up,
right,
then
all right,
they're-
I got it.
And as I,
So as of the way it is right now, this board does not qualify. In April, the newly seated board then qualifies, correct?
They have to do the training.
Right.
Individual training.
Once they get the training.
Just the individuals, so it's not, and I know one of the questions at the last meeting was, does the election of 3 trustees at the next election mean that the entire board is now new? And the answer is no.
Right.
It's just those trustees who are reelected, or if a new trustee is elected onto the board.
Right, but there's two different things. There's a term of a trustee and there's a term of the board. And the term of the board lasts for 2 years.
Right.
So this is specific to the term of a trustee rather than the term of the board.
Correct. Yeah, and that stems from 2 different sources of authority. The Illinois Constitution regarding local government, salaries and fees, any increase or decrease in the salary of an elected officer of any unit of local government shall not take effect during the term for which that officer is elected. And we have the Local Government Officer Compensation Act, time of fixing compensation, the compensation of elected officers of school districts and units of local government, including home rule units, fixed by the unit of local government, shall be fixed at least 180 days before the beginning of the terms of those officers. So we're talking about specific trustees, and we've got a state law and the state constitution that says it can't be done during your term, nor within that 180 days before you would be reelected and be seated for a new term. So given that it's July, you're more than 180 days away from what would be 3 new terms, should 3 be reelected.
Is it the election or is it the seating?
Beginning of the term.
No.
Okay. Roll call.
Trustee Palia?
Yes.
Trustee McCluskey?
Yes.
Trustee Paul?
Yes.
Trustee Siegel?
Yes, it doesn't affect my term or
Trustee
days,
Meter.
but
Yes.
It definitely doesn't affect my term. I'm gonna be long gone, but I mean,
You're gonna retire.
oh, no.
Just keep going.
No, but I can vote on it, okay?
You all can vote because this isn't going to impact your compensation at all during your term of office.
Exactly. Okay,
I go.
go ahead.
You're getting near the end, right?
I'm getting near the end.
I got one question. Do we need a motion, chief, for the person that was gonna take over in August? Or is there any, okay?
I don't believe, no, that's a civilian hire.
The policy says it's up to the words and up to you.
that doesn't require a motion for that hire.
I just said, I haven't been working on the policy manual, I don't know if it's in there.
I just wanna make sure it's right.
So, just make the motion to support the action of the chief.
Yeah.
But that's not on the agenda, so can we add that to the agenda or does that have to be on next month's agenda?
Well, it's not specifically on it, but it's under O, possible action on items discussed in closed sessions, because if you went into closed session to discuss the hiring of this person, you could come out and approve it. But just a second. Board of Trustees shall be responsible for hiring and appointing personnel. Is this current?
Yes.
Okay. May delegate and so on with all aspects. I'm not sure whether you delegated to the chief in his contract or job description this
We had a
authority.
motion
You might
last
have.
month.
I thought we
chief had mentioned about how we-
delegated the power to the chief, so I think we'll just leave it.
Yeah, I reported last month that we went through the process.
And the individual will come up on payroll, and you'll be approving that on a regular basis too, so I don't think you need to take any further action. Good question, though.
Okay, is there anything for a closed session?
No, sir.
I'll entertain a motion to,
what?
Adjourn.
To adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
I don't have nothing.
Haley, second.